Alright, let's get this stream started. Should be live. Let's go check the phone. Is it live on the YouTube right now? Turn the phone on the no... Let's see here. My channel. Yep. I am live. Let's see. Yep. I am live. Let's see. Yep. Okay. Okay, we are live. Let's go make a link for that and post it on the Facebook. Let's see here. YouTube. Share. Copy link. And heading to Facebook. Boom. Going live with the basics of mesh modifiers. In Slic3r PE. Thanks to Eric Bjorgenman for the tips on his blog on how this magic works. Stop by and say hello. Paste. And post. All right. Let's send this to a few other people and paste. Things with modifier meshes. All right. It is live. Let's learn a few things about modifier meshes. I can't see how many people are on here yet. I can check on my phone, I guess. I don't have it all pulled up. Let's see here. Probably not many because I just posted it. It's probably like, oh, you know, put in advance that I'm going online to do things. But the good news is, oh, hey, Raymond. Let's see, my channel. We are live. Okay. Let's talk about modifier meshes. I learned all of my information from going to 3D Viking's website over here. This website is by Eric Bjorgen, the man who not only inspired all of us to do better things every day, but also teaches us things about Slicer. So yeah, I remember seeing this tutorial for Simplify 3D where they did multiple processes so you don't waste as much material printing the Thor's hammer, because you don't need a ton of infill in the middle. I forget who did it. I think it might have been Angus from Maker's Muse. I can't remember. I have a bad memory. So, but the good news is we don't need to use Simplify 3D to do things where we can not waste as much material. And it's actually pretty intuitive. I've never done it before. I quickly read over Eric's blog before when he first posted it. Never messed with it. And then just someone today asked, like, how do I do this? How do I add more or less material here? So my goal here is to show you how to make the best Thor's hammer possible, covering all the things that would be needed. And we got to print this thing twice. I'm going to get this thing all pretty, I'm going to slice it, I'm going to print it, just like we did the Blink Fox that we did in the last Slic3r tutorial, Slicer tutorial. It is officially Slicer, but that 3, man, that leet speak. So the first thing we need is we need an object. So this is Thor's hammer on Thingiverse. It is thing number something. Thing number something. I'll look it up on my phone. So Thingiverse and Thor. Should have wrote all this down beforehand. But you know what? Slow is good right now because it's the first time I'm doing this. So I might mess this up a whole bunch of times. But I think I memorized it. Yeah, life size Thor's hammer by Chaos Cortec. It is thing number. So wait, that might not be it. Nope, that's it. So this is thing number. So let's put that in the little chat here. So thing number 131108. Is that correct? Yes. So there you go. If you want to do this on your own, that is the thing. I'll probably add that in the description at some point. So yeah, let's start here. We are going to change some settings. We're going to make this, we're going to do actually a couple things. We're not only going to do modifier meshes, we're going to do some other fun things and teach you how to do a couple other things to help you with the quality that you might not have known that Slicer can do. So first off, we have general settings. And what you do with modifier meshes is you can do it in a couple different ways. I'm going to try to do it the easiest way, which is I want a little bit extra infill to cover up to where the handle is. So I want it nice and strong by the handle. And this area here, it doesn't need to be strong at all. It could be pretty weak. So we're going to do less infill here. And then right at the top, we're going to do something, because you don't want pillowing. So if we do like, let's say like a 3% or 2% infill here, there's going to be some huge gaps. So we're going to increase the infill just for the top layers, just so we have some good structure to lay the top layers down, and you won't have an issue of pillowing or sagging or bad bridging and stuff. So we're also going to make this fun, scrolly, Celtic, whatever that is, text. We're going to make that extra pretty by throwing in some, it's right here, extruder 1. It is going to be layer height, the variable layer heights. So we're going to use variable layer heights in this area to increase, or well, not increase, but actually decrease the layer height so we get better text. So we got a couple things going on here. We'll also need some supports right here. We don't need supports literally anywhere else, so I will show you the best way of, since you can't use custom supports like you can in Simplify 3D, I will show you how to only get the least amount of things here, because Slicer does it a little bit different than what you might think, and it might have confused you before. Alright, let's be done with spinning this thing. I know that was fun, me doing the DJ moves here. So we need to pick some things in the print settings. So the first thing is we don't need big layer heights, or tiny layer heights. We can actually print this in 0.3, so we can only do that at 0.3. So this main object, most of the time when you do this, you want the main object to have the main settings. So whatever you want the most, whatever you want the largest portion of the print to be, that's the settings we're going to put into the main settings. So we're going to make a new setting for this, but we're using the same profile we made last time. 2 perimeters is fine. We can actually probably add perimeters if we wanted to, but that will beef it up. So maybe I'll add extra perimeters in that same area by the handle, because we won't need as many further away. We don't need any of that because there aren't really any thin walls. Seam will stay aligned. Infill, so we don't need much infill. We're going to do a 3% infill throughout most of it. And gyroid is fine because that'll be the strongest that we can use. But we're going to modify that in areas where we need better infill or different infill. Skirt brim doesn't matter. Support material, we will go back to this later because I'll show you that. Speeds are fine. We don't need to adjust anything else, so that's good. Where was variable layer height? I think it might be in here. Is it in here? Filament settings, filaments, advanced. Nope. Printer settings. Yeah, here we go. So here's a min-max for layer height. So you can go down this far, up this high for variable layer heights. And that's fine. That will work. And we do have them enabled, correct? Do we have variable layer heights enabled? I sometimes turn that off, and then people are like, why do you turn that off? I'm like, I really don't know. I should probably not. But it looks like it's on because this is not grayed out. So that's good. So let us mess with the modifier meshes, which is super easy. So this is actually a lot easier than I thought it was. Eric spelled it out in a very comical yet detail-oriented fashion. So let's first start out with right-clicking our object, and we're going to go to Settings. And what you need to do is, in this area, is we need to load a generic modifier. So basically what we do is we want an object to highlight the area we want to control. So for instance, we know that the majority of this is going to be 3% infill. Right now, all of it is 3% infill, which isn't much. Let's actually take a look at that. Let's slice this and take a look at what 3% infill looks like. And this will give you a better idea of what we're working with here, what we want to enhance. So we have fill density of 3, no supports, 3mm layer heights. Let's take a look at that. See, look at how sparse. I mean, the gyroid looks awesome. That's going to be super cool looking. But yeah, that is not much infill. So we got a lot we need to fix here. We need to add, let's see here. We can actually find it here. So layer, right about there is where we want some beefing. Actually, no, we don't need it there. I need beefiness up to the handle, maybe a little bit past. So we're going to do a little beefier infill up to about there. So that says 23.7. Is that millimeters or layers? Let's see. It goes by layers, 0.3, 0.9. So 23. So we'll just do, what's divisible by 3? 24 by 8? So 8 millimeters. We need, wait, that's not, well, we'll figure it out. But that is what we need to increase infill on. We want this a little bit beefier here. And then we'll stack the rest of it with mostly open air. And then, as we get to the top, it's a lot easier on the top, but we'll be able to do a bunch of stuff here. So let's go back to the 3D preview. Let's go back to right-clicking our object and go into Settings. And, let me go back one more, because it doesn't tell me anything. So right here, we've got the size of the object. It is 139 millimeters in one direction, 135 millimeters in another direction, and then 110 tall, which looks about correct. So we need to make an object that is bigger than this, so we don't miss anything. So let's go right-click, Settings, load generic, and here's what we need. We have these different objects. We can do a box, a slab, a cylinder, or sphere. Box is fine. I don't know. They could have called it a cube. Box is fine. We're going to do 150 by 150. And the height, let's just do 50. And then I can go from there. You can actually drop it in the Z direction. So there is our lambda box. And it looks like it's not going to do anything because it's only covering this and you can't drag it. You can just click it. And that's something I learned from Eric's blog, was you can't drag it around. But you have these sliders. You have the game of sliding things around. So we're going to slide this thing around in the directions we need. So let's turn it this way. Let's slide you and get all the little bits. There we go. We're getting all the bits there. I can look at the top here. That'd be easier. A little bit more. Right there. So we have all the pieces in that direction. Let's go this way. Make sure we get all the pieces in that direction. And that is now covered. And then we don't need that much height. We need to just get to about, it's hard to see when it's highlighted, but we just need to go a little bit lower. We need to get below, so we're going to do a negative move right about there. So that's highlighting just that section. So in that section, we can modify things just by hitting this. You hit this plus sign, you can change all of these things. How many external perimeters, how much infill. You can't do support material. Wouldn't that be amazing? Speeds, which extruder you're using, etc. You can do a bunch of things. I mean, whatever you want to do, minus support material. Boo. You can do in here, and we're going to do infill. So we're going to change not only the infill density, but also the fill pattern. So now we have our options, and we're going to go with a 10% infill pattern there. We're not going to use stars. We're going to use rectilinear, just because that's going to be nice and quick. We could do triangles. I do like triangles sometimes, but basically what we've done now is we've made this box tell this object that if this object is in this part of the box, it's going to have a fill density of 10% rectilinear infill, and it's going to ignore the fact that the majority of this is 3% gyroid. So we're going to hit OK. And there it is. There's our modifier box. And don't be afraid. It doesn't matter that that's there. So we're going to slice again. Go to preview here. And it's going to take a little bit because now it's doing extra math. So here we go, slicing our crazy thing. And we can take a look at what we've done. And hopefully I did it correct. If not, Eric should be messaging me right now and yelling at me. Nope, he's not yelling at me, so that's good. So here is our object. And as we scroll through the layers, you see the 3% very sparse infill. And then as we get to right there, you see it. There it is. There's our beefier infill pattern that we added right by the handle. So we have beefy where we need it by the handle. And then it gets sparse with our fun gyroid infill. And then as we get closer, it stays there. Boom. But then we're going to have a downfall. These last layers are going to have to bridge over that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another modifier mesh at the top. And we're going to come in from the top. And we're just going to highlight the last 10 layers. We're going to beef up the infill again to the same thing. We're going to do a fantastic little infill pattern of rectilinear and again 10% infill. And then when we come in and do those final layers, there'll be a little bit more to sit down on. So let's go to 3D. Let's right click again, settings. We're going to load a new generic box. We're going to do another 150 by 150, and height can be 10. It doesn't. Let's be safe. Let's do 20. We'll see how crazy I get. So now I have a new object. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to raise that. We're going to click on this object. We're going to raise this object. We're going to look at it from this perspective. And we just need to, I messed with that. Let's go back. Looks like that still works. This object, we just need to lower that. Oh, see, now I moved it. There we go. We just need to grab a little bit and boost the infill there. So there we go. That should be good for the height. Maybe I'll come down a little bit more. Maybe. Let's see. -8. Yeah. That looks better. And then we're going to look at the top, and we're going to get this in position. So move that over here. We don't have to be perfect in this one because there's a little bit more leeway to move around. Boom. And we're going to add our infill density and infill pattern. We're going to go with rectilinear and 10% and hit OK. So now I have a really strange looking object that has some rectangles all over our Thor's hammer. But let's slice that again and preview this. Yo, what up, Sonic? So yeah, now we've added a second modifier mesh, and this will give us a better infill before the top layers. And we added a little bit better infill at the bottom, so it's strung by the handle. So there it is. So we're going to go top layers, and there's a nice thickening of infill, so that way we have a better better print surface to put the top solid infill down on. And then we scroll through our 3% gyroid. No problem, Steve. And then right here we've got our thicker infill for where the handle is going to be, because again we want that to be strong. Most of the force is going to be in this area, so this can be a bunch of air. You can even probably just take it away, but it's nicer to have something when you go to these layers and etc. upon etc. So that's the basics of modifier meshes. The other thing I want to show you to make this thing even better is making sure we get the supports correct. So the nice thing is we can go right now to supports everywhere, and we can reslice, and it only needs to slice the supports. And they're going to be, I think I have it set for 20%. Or, no, I have it set to way too many degrees. I think it's set at 45 degrees that it's going to do the... Oh, hi, John. So yeah, as you can see, this is where Slic3r becomes dumb. It's trying to add supports to this text, and it's not really necessary because we're going to do something else to help us out with that text. We don't need that nonsense. And we also don't need all of that support. So we can't do custom supports, but we can do something else. We can go to print settings, and we can go to support material, and we can turn the overhang threshold to 5 degrees. I know that sounds opposite, but it works. So you hit 5 degrees, you hit slice now, and instead of adding supports into this scrawly text work here, it actually reduces it down to just inside of this groove and some on the outside. And I don't know why it puts stuff on the outside. It might just be that it's dumb. I'd rather just have it stay inside the object, but you know what? It's there. You can't fight it. I can't remove it, but that's how Slic3r works. But at least we removed this garbage. We're just supporting this little groove here. This won't damage it. We've got a lot of separation between here, but we won't have any sagging inside of that little cavity, which is awesome. Last thing, here's our strange object. We're going to do some layer editing. You hit the layer editing button, and you got this weird graph, and the object looks strange. We probably should have done it without the objects because it's easier to see, but I want to go in order. I want to talk about modifier meshes first. What we can do here is, as you can see here, left mouse button adds detail, right mouse button removes detail. We don't need detail in this very flat section with no detail or whatever. We do need some detail here with this text, or it's going to be a little choppy. These overhangs might be a little bit extreme. We can change the layer height. So we can, as you can see, I wish I could have two little mice pointers, but there's a yellow line here, which translates to a yellow line here. And that tells you where you are modifying at. So as you can see in this open area, here's that yellow line. And if I left click, it increases the layer height in that area. So I'm painting, and all that's doing is increasing the layer height to a maximum of maximum of 0.0, whatever we set it to. But we're just going to keep painting that text so it has more layer height. And we can right mouse click to remove details. We don't need this that I added on accident. We also don't need this where I added that on accident. We're just going to keep on keeping on. And just stabilize these additional layers that I added. So keep on. So basically what we're doing is we're adding more layer height, or less layer height. We're decreasing the layer height in this area. I'm just going to max it out in the area that I need it in, right there. So in this area we are maximum. That is the smallest layer height. We can go to print settings, and we don't need 0.7. We'll change that to 1 millimeter, 0.1 millimeters is the smallest layer height. Go back to our platter, and now that section that we increased, do we need to go a little higher? My modifier mesh is messing with me. Should have done that first. We'll go a little higher. What's cool is you can actually, I guess I gotta redo it because it's set for what I had before set. But so this area now is 0.1 millimeters instead of the point. We could have done a modifier mesh like this too, but I just want to show this how this works. But now this area that we highlighted has a layer height of 0.1. Everything else is 0.3 millimeters. Something like a benchy or something with curves is awesome because you can actually make this a curve, so you can curve into more or into smaller layer heights. But that looks good. That looks really good. I'm pretty proud of this. And again, you could have done that with a modifier mesh. You could have just done that, which is why I'm going to reset this. Go back to our print set. Oh, go back to our platter. Leave the layer editing panel. Right click again, and we're going to settings. And the fastest way possible, we're going to add one more generic. It's going to be 150 by 150 by, and this is why it's harder. I don't know that height, and I guess I could figure it out, but we're going to guess that that's going to be 25 millimeters. It's a lot better with Simplify 3D, and there's probably a better way of doing this. I'm just trying to show you the quick way. So we're going to pull that in, try to get it somewhat squared up with our previous cube. There we go. And then we're just going to get to the area here. Hey, that actually worked out pretty good. 25 is good. So in that area, boom, we're going to change our layers. And can we do thinner? Can we do layer? Nope, we can't. There is no detected top parameters, extra, nope. Extrusion width, nope. So yeah, you have to do it. See? We're learning. You cannot do that in modifier mesh. You can't change the layer height. So let's go back. Let's double check our print settings. So our minimum is 1. Let's just do 1.5. We don't need that much. And go our, ooh, cancel. Double click also works. Layer editing. And right here, so this area will now have a layer height of 0.15 millimeters. Not the fastest way of doing this. Maybe there's a thing that goes, nope, reset to base. I didn't see it, but we'll just do it this way, because I know this works. And I might have just missed it, because I don't do this very often. I do this stuff. So there we go. From here to here, we'll have a layer height of 0.15 millimeters. Everything else is at 0.3. So let's go to our preview. We're going to slice, which this will take a while because we added a whole bunch of nonsense. Why am I sleepy? That's right, I woke up early and had another shoot today. I'm going to drink this delicious club soda. Yep, that was delicious. Let's go, Slicer, let's go. Can't wait till that's instantaneous. There we go. So here we go. Now we've got our fun, higher density infill pattern change. Then we got our nice thin infill. Now we got smaller layers. As you can see, it's moving at 0.15 millimeters instead of 0.3, where it's going faster here, slower there. And then down here we got some beefiness, and of course we got our supports that aren't everywhere, which is great. So there you go. We've now used less material. instead of having 5% or 10% infilled Thor's hammer, we now have 10% in the beginning where the handle is. And remember, we got to print this twice, so this is perfect. Both sides will be the same. We have 3% through the majority of it, and at the very end, we are boosting up to yeah, I think it's taking into the fact that the layer heights I've chosen don't line up. So 110, yeah, 110.03. Somewhere in there, there's probably too many layers, and it's just doing magic. Because again, I think the object was 110. Yeah, it is 110 before. At 0.3, I don't think that maths out. Yes, it was. Is it, no, that was the maximum for using the when we're using layer editing for layer smoothing. That's the max min. So the minimum jump will be to 0.25, and the maximum jump will be to 0.15. Our print settings, our layers are at 0.3. So that's what that is. So let's take a look again. Let's take a look at our... Yeah, they don't conflict. Yeah, so here's our 3D view. This is still 0.3 because you can see it doesn't jump down. It just, the first time you click it, it jumps right to 0.25. You can increase that. I mean, we can go back here and just set this to 0.3 for the max. And go back to the platter, and it doesn't matter. Right mouse, yeah, see if I right mouse, it doesn't remove anything, so it's not going back to 0.3 in this area. But let's go back to our preview and slice now. Because I changed something, and Slicer's like, oh man, you totally need to reslice this. The nice thing is Slicer, you don't have to always reslice things. It actually, you know, like when we did the, when we added support, it didn't have to reslice the whole thing. It just sliced what it needed for supports, which is awesome. Downfall being is when you do a whole bunch of changes or one thing that has to recalculate, well, you know, we messed up. Oh, there we go. Now it's calculating weird stuff. There we go. So here is our object with extra infill pattern before the top layer, so that way it doesn't pillow. Or super thin. We have our 0.15 layer heights. Yeah, it is like individual processes in Simplify 3D. It's just done differently, and in ways it's a little bit better. You don't have to make a whole new process. You just have to memorize how it's done. And this is the first time I've done modifier meshes, and it's, for an object like this, it's really simple. And it's also nice is it's not done by layer height. You can, I'll bring in something else and I'll mess with it, because you can do odd shapes. Because you can bring in, you know, just a small section. But yeah, and then here's our thicker infill here where the handle's going to be. So there's that. So export G-code, body half. We're going to do Thor's hammer half, because that doesn't make any sense to me. And if I hit the F, that'll be better. Save. So let's bring in a different object. So once that's done exporting, I'll be a happy kid. Because then I can do little sections and shapes, and it's kind of different, which is nice. This is where it becomes a little bit more powerful in Slicer than it is in Simplify 3D. That's kind of cool. We have that thinner layers here, thicker layers here. Learning. Oh, why am I yawning? Oh, I gotta check on a printer downstairs that's not on the screen. I have so many printers running in the basement with projects going on. Oh, and of course I can't check it because I'm not on Wi-Fi on my phone. Using data. And there we go. We have finished slicing it. It did its magic. I'm happy. We're all happy. Alright, see you, Steve. Yeah, and I'll save this and post it once it's done. That way people can go back to it. Let's make sure the overhangs. Yep, overhangs are still good. Printer, other printer that's not on there. Okay, we gotta fix that one. Alright, let's clear all of this. Let's leave layer editing. Let's delete all. That's done. We never need to go back to that. Do I have an object that would be fun to do this with? Fluid base. Life size hammer. Boy, I really didn't grab anything for this, but I guess I can use this. Let's grab the cute octo. So this is where it's a little bit different with modifier meshes. If you just want this, you know, let's say you want more infill on this little paw here, on his little octopus tentacle. You can, oh, there's a little mistake there in the mesh. But yeah, let's say you just want that to have a different infill or something. So let's right click, go to settings. You can also double click. I'm just so used to right clicking. We can load a generic object that's a cylinder and give it a radius of, I don't know, 10 and a height of, I don't know, 30. Okay. And where did it put it? Oh, there it is. It's in the dead center. So I'm going to click that. And we're going to drag that around. So using the cylinder, we can grab just the tentacle. And we'll go in the Z direction because we don't need a face. Ooh, go back up. So there you go. That tentacle is now the only thing selected. We can then say infill, fill density. So just that tentacle now has 30% infill. And this is where it's different than modifier, or than the multiple processes, because that's usually by layer height. I didn't mess with it too much. I did do the one just by layer height for simple things. So hit OK. Let's slice now. We'll take a preview of that. So it should be all 3% everywhere. Might need to turn off supports because we don't need that. Okay, good. There's no supports added. And then we'll scroll through and we have very little infill. And then just that little tiny guy right down there has 30% infill. Because, you know, that was important. But as you can see, it actually does it as a sphere, which is kind of cool. So, or as a cylinder. So there's a, you know, if let's say you had a post and you want more infill in a post, you can do that. You can do whatever you need to do. So we'll do one more quick modifier mesh. We'll go back to 3D. I don't know what I'm going to do. Settings. Load generic. What do we got here? We got slab and sphere. Sure. Oh. 10. I'm guessing that put it. Yep, there it is. There's a sphere we made. So Z up. So we're going to modifier mesh a sphere into his head of something. So we're going to change, you can change the extruder. So if you had multi-material unit, you can use this thing to do that. But let's take a look at layers. Nope. Infill bridging angle. Nope. Speed. Nope. Extruders. Extrusion width. Nope. So let's change in that circle. The number of things. Solid layers. Sure, we'll just do a circle of infill because we've done that so many times. So we're going to change infill density just in there, or pattern, to rectilinear. I don't know why. We just did. We're having fun. It's got a big zit on its head. Someone bonked it. Slice now. Yeah, you can do different objects, and that's just the big difference between Simplify 3D and Slicer, that you can do object, random weird object manipulation in modifier meshes. So just that circle now has a different infill pattern. See, look at that. That's weird. There's now a sphere of infill there. So yeah, there we go. that is all we're going to talk about with modifier meshes. Go to Eric Bjorgen's blog. He has it written up much better than I might have done, but I did it in a visual way because I learn better from YouTube, and I'm here to YouTube you stuff about Slic3r for now. They will be adding more cool stuff, so hopefully when custom supports come in and other fancy things, I can make more things. If you have a suggestion for the next thing you want to learn about from Slic3r, let me know. I've got a few things I might do, different objects, learning the G-code stuff. Other than that, yeah. Well, you guys have a good time. Go back to your printings and having fun. I am going to now end the stream.